Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our end of the year webinar here at Project Cargo Journal. My name is 𝗗𝗏𝗃𝗏. I'm the editor of Project Cargo Journal, and I'd like to welcome you all. With me in the studio is my colleague, editor-in-chief of the cargo division here at ProMedia, 𝗗𝗃 Papatholios. Nikos, welcome.
Well, hello, Adnan. Good morning, everybody, and thank you for inviting me here in this very interesting and informative webinar. And I'm very glad to have you here in the studio as well. It's not a usual sight to say, so let's make the most out of it.
Yeah, definitely. So, as I understand, your let's say exposure to Project Cargo it has been a bit limited. You have been dealing with the rail freight sector and mostly transport on rail. So this is going to be a bit of an immersive experience into the world of Project Cargo for you, right?
Indeed. As you mentioned, my experience comes mostly from the rail sector. Of course, it's a niche industry in itself, but Project Cargo is another niche in which I'm very interested into, especially since we're working together on that now. And it's a whole new world for me, but it's part of the global supply chain, so I think it will easily make sense in this broader context in the end. But I'm really looking forward to seeing what we're having to discuss today.
Yeah, well, we have three guests today. We'll have topics ranging from the role of Port of Bilbao for the Basque Country and the transport, import and export of Project Cargo in and out of the region. We'll look into the capacity of container carriers as well to move these oversized cargoes, and we'll also look into the road to decarbonization of the industry and the supply chain itself. But
three key topics, let's say.
Yeah, three key topics.
Big hubs, decarbonization, capacity, and how to utilize it.
Yeah, definitely.
I think we have a very nice basis here for the discussion today.
Before we start the discussion and before we introduce our guests, I think it's good to have a little bit of a look back into the Project Cargo Summit that we held in Bilbao in September earlier this year.
Which I heard that was a great success, right?
Yeah, definitely. It was a great event. We had a lot of guests. We had a lot of interesting topics. But let's see a short recap video of the event, and then we'll talk about it a bit later.
Of course.
We are happy to host the 7th edition of the Project Cargo in Bilbao. We've got a lot of industry, nice cargos. Project Cargo is very important for the port of Bilbao. Welcome to Bilbao. We've got a bright future together. This is a tremendous opportunity to enhance reciprocal trade between the European and the North American markets.
Okay, and I must admit something, all right?
Yeah.
These are the kinds of after movies that give me FOMO, fear of missing out, you know? I wasn't there in this event, but I saw many people networking, I saw full rooms, I saw interesting discussions, and I saw people excited about the location as well.
Yeah.
You were there. Okay,
I was lucky.
Of course, you were lucky. You were on the stage as well moderating. Everybody saw you. So I would like to ask you, what were the highlights and some key takeaways from this event, maybe?
Well, to be honest, initially it was focused mostly on offshore wind and the wind industry, with Port of Bilbao being one of the hubs for that type of industry. But I think the main takeaway, after all, and in a broader scope, was a call for collaboration, a lot tighter collaboration between all the stakeholders, not just in the offshore wind industry, but in general in the Project Cargo industry. So I think there was a huge call for tighter collaboration between ports, between all the freight forwarders, between all the EPCs and the cargo owners, let's say, and the shipping companies as well. So the whole sector.
And when we talk about closer collaboration, how would you define it? Is it about sharing more information, data? Is it about keeping everybody informed and on board of same projects?
It's about keeping everybody informed, keeping everybody in line with all the developments within the sector, with all the advancements in the sector. Decarbonization is definitely a huge topic, and we'll discuss it today as well. So I think it could be somewhere along those lines.
And it's not something it's something that we see in all those different sectors of the supply chain industry. Even in the rail sector, we're talking a lot about collaboration, mostly on the data aspect of the industry, but we need more information sharing. So I guess this is a key point to make here as well.
Yeah, definitely. Now, to discuss some of these topics, we should move, I think, towards our guests.
Exactly.
Today.
Just a quick remark. We have the webinar live, of course, and you see a public chat there, everybody. So if you have any questions about our speakers or if you have any follow-up questions on the questions that we are going to ask them, feel free to drop those questions in the chat and we will address them.
Yeah. So let's start with the first guest, who is Amaia Sarasola Anzola, Head of Marketing and the Commercial Division at Port Authority of Bilbao. Amaia, I hope you can hear us, and welcome to our webinar.
Thank you, Adnan. I can hear you very well.
Perfect. So, Amaia, you were there as well for the Project Cargo Summit in September. How was the reception of the port community? What are the comments?
Okay, I was there, of course, and we're very happy. And the response from the port community of Bilbao for this year's of Project Cargo Summit has been overwhelmingly positive. We have had bigger numbers, as you know, and all the port community felt that Bilbao being a bigger port for breakbulk cargo. Breakbulk cargo is a very big business for us and very important, and the port operators and the rest of the supply chain has been developing very efficient services. So they felt that we should have an event like this, which is a wonderful meeting point to gather key persons, key people in the business, and to share experiences and projects and speak about the future. So that as you said, Adnan, that's the main advantage of the event, and we are very.
And has it helped you build new connections with the new customers that are otherwise not really active in the port of Bilbao?
Yes, of course. There have been delegates that we didn't know, and the operators of the Port of Bilbao didn't know. So that also brings an opportunity to develop new services and new opportunities, of course.
Yeah, and speaking of new services, there's a lot of development in the Port of Bilbao, and as the headline of this part of the webinar says, you are serving as some sort of as a big hub for the Basque Country industries, as an export and an import hub. How has the year been for Port of Bilbao?
Well, so far up to September, total traffic, I think we have an increase of 5%. But in terms of breakbulk is developing much better. So the increase is around 7%. In particular, RoRo business has grown 18% and other low breakbulk operations 7%. So if we compare with worse figures in 2023, we are very positive, and it's developing better than expected.
And what are the major industries that you are serving in the Basque Country and in the region around the Port of Bilbao?
Well, you know that the Basque Country, together with the area of Catalonia and the area of Madrid, are the most industrialized regions. So we have here a lot of industries producing heavy machinery, and also, as you mentioned before, in the last 10 years so far, wind industry has been developing dramatically, and also in the Port of Bilbao. But we also have paper imports, because we have a strong paper in the region, motor automobiles, and also, of course, different products, iron and steel. We have different iron and steel industries in the region, and also don't forget the transport of lorries with cargo, which is developing very well from the Port of Bilbao.
And how are the connections to the hinterland from the Port of Bilbao? Do you have specific rail connections, road connections that are being developed or are in development currently?
Well, we are connected very well with the motorway networks in the region. For instance, and we are also working together, in particular, to develop corridors for the wind industry with all the road manager administrations in order to provide safer and faster road corridors. But in terms of railway, we have railway connections to, I would say, more than 24 inland railway terminals in the Iberian Peninsula. So we have an average of 100 railway operations per week. For majority are for containers, but we have also trains for iron and steel products, liquid products, and cereals. So we are working together with the terminals and the operators to develop more railway connectivity. We already enjoy a rate of 29% of the containers entering and leaving the port are using the railway, but we want to expand this to other operations. So we have good expectations also for that.
Yeah. And what are, as you mentioned, expectations? What are the expectations for 2025?
Well, we are very positive looking at the figures we have so far, particularly as I said, for breakbulk. And some of the industries related to high and heavies within the port boundary have been expanding last year. So we have good expectations for the wind industry to continue developing. There are a lot of projects in Northern Europe for new parks, and also solar park. So we think that the up trend will continue for the next year, the future. So we are working on that.
And is there more investment planned in the specific sector, of, to bring to update the infrastructure, to update the facilities, to bring more companies on board?
Yes. Well, we have already started the last part of the development of the port. So we will have, I think in 2027, 300,000 square meters of land with more than 1 kilometer of berthing line of deep water, because it's a deep water port with natural depths of up to 32 meters. So we will have more for new connections, maritime connections, and for more land for the companies to export through the Port of Bilbao. And we are also investing heavily to decarbonize the transport service offered from the Port of Bilbao, as we are going to invest in our supply, something like 78 million euros for electrifying the Ro-Ro terminal, the container terminal, and the cruise terminal in this first stage. And also working with Repsol and other companies to have the production within the port of green fuels. So I would say that those are the main investments we are doing, together with the electrification of the machinery, which the port operators are doing also in the port.
Yeah. And as we are going to move soon to our next speaker, who is going to be discussing more of the container carrier sector, How is that sector developing in the port of Bilbao?
Well, the container sector is increasing at a lower pace in general. So that is also a reflection in the Port of Bilbao. Traffic which are increasing more than traffic markets, of course, China and some European countries like Netherlands, Belgium, and Ireland. UK, which is our main market, it's quite weak it's been quite weak for the last 4 years, for the Brexit, for the different problems in the United Kingdom. But we are seeing also other transatlantic countries like the States and Mexico increasing in containers. So, well, as you know, as everybody knows, we are difficult times in general in the world. So we are having some uncertainties as how this will develop. We have different challenges for next year with the alliances changes and the ETAs. So, well, let's see how this will develop. And also, breakbulk cargo and high and heavies could be another new business for container shipping lines. So, let's see.
Yep, definitely. Thank you, Amaia. Thank you for a brief discussion. Of course, we'll see you in 2025 again, but we'll talk about it a bit later in the webinar. So as we discussed container carriers, and Amaia mentioned high and heavy sector for these types of vessels, I would like us to move to our next guest, who is 𝗘𝗃_𝗃𝗃, Key Account Manager, Project Cargo at one of the key shipping companies, major shipping companies, CMA CGM. 𝗘𝗃, welcome.
Hello, good morning, everyone. Thank you for welcoming me in Project Cargo Journal.
Hi, 𝗘𝗃. Good morning.
So, 𝗘𝗃, you have already heard in Port of Bilbao, container carriers are, the container traffic is not developing as fast as somewhere else, but you definitely have a lot to say in terms of moving high and heavy break bulk project cargo on your vessels. So, would you say that it's a bit misunderstood, the capacity of container carriers to move these oversized cargoes?
Well, I would say that definitely in Project Cargo, people speak about freight tons. In container carrier, we do speak in TUs, 20 equivalent unit. It's two different understanding, but I would say both work together, as you can definitely fit all those freight tons into containers, into flat tracks or flat track beds. Also, for those solutions, I will take the example of Port of Bilbao. Bilbao is one of the, I would say, outport of our service, and we can cover it with alternative solutions.
So, what do you think is the biggest advantage of container carriers when it comes to moving break bulk and project cargo?
Well, we are a liner service, so we got all the advantage of a liner service. So, meaning a weekly departure, a long-term schedule. A global coverage, so we are covering more than 400 ports in the world, and we are able to accommodate all those this coverage in direct service, but also in transshipment. We do focus on quality of execution and safety, but also on a long-term visibility, thanks to our long-term visibility and schedule.
Yeah, 𝗘𝗃, a question from my side. Wouldn't you say, for instance, that one of the biggest advantages of container carriages right now is also the extra capacity? Because from what I hear, there are a lot of orders, and there is a lot of capacity that cannot potentially be filled, meaning that container rates, freight rates will drop probably next year. But there should be enough capacity to put other kinds of equipment on ships, right?
Well, in matter of capacity, I would say it depends a lot on, I would say, geopolitical event. This year, Good Hope has drained a lot of capacity out of the market. Just to give you some figures, having a ship going via Good Hope is adding more than 2 weeks. And when you have a weekly service, when you add, you have 2 weeks, that means you have to add 2 more vessels. And those vessels are not the tiniest ones. So yes, a lot of capacity has been drained. However, we are still keen to put Project Cargo as part of our cargo mix on board our services. And we do add Project Cargo as part of the long-term commitments that we got on board our vessels.
All right.
But there are certain limitations for your vessels, and what are these limitations?
Well, definitely we are really dependent on terminals, meaning that I will say, if I give a number, everywhere in the world we can carry up to 65 tons for sure. After we make some studies. So, and when we are able to do it, we make some wonderful shipment, like maybe you have seen the 4 reactors of 200 tons in 𝗵𝗿𝗃 or a rock dumping unit several years ago. But yes, we're able to do a bit of magic on our box ships, and this is the beauty of it.
But then it also, the first and last miles are always a challenge for container carriers, because you have to make sure that the cargo gets to the right port, right? And then that it's unloaded at the right port. So how do you handle this?
Well, I will say that our customers are mainly freight forwarder or project cargo forwarder. So they are the experts on the land. We are the experts on the sea. So as project cargo is teamwork, we do rely on our customer to be able to bring to the last mile. But on some projects, we're able to build up tailor-made solution where we will build up a feedering solution to be as close possible to the project location. I got a really good example for a Norwegian factory, and everybody knows that Norway is not an easy country in terms of project cargo, where we literally had our feedering service at 10 minutes from the factory location.
Okay, perfect. Now there's one more thing. MPP sector is struggling with an aging fleet, and there's a lot of investment in container carriers. Now, on one side, you have a capacity crunch and an aging fleet, and on the other side, you have a lot of investment and new builds coming. Can container carriers be part of a solution in terms of filling the capacity needs and also decarbonizing the supply chain?
Definitely. Actually, container carriers represent the largest commercial fleet, which means we are heavily controlled and challenged to go towards the CO2 reduction. Thanks to really important competition between our peers, there is a never-ending demand and growth on all fleets. I would say all the shipyards are booked, all the order books are going beyond 2030 because, well, we need to change the shipping industry. And indeed, we will be able to, I would say, absorb a bit of the MPP capacity. But this is the beauty of a container ship. It's the ability to carry everything from a smartphone to some machinery on a flat track, or few breakbulk shipment like heavy transformers, a cement plant, or simply a yacht for AP1.
And how does the future look like for 𝗂𝗎𝐶 in terms of project cargo? Are there any specific investments you are putting into equipment that you can make sure you easily handle all the incoming high and heavy cargos?
Well, I would say that our goal for the future is to diversify our offer. So when we say we diversify our offer is always to go beyond our capabilities. We have strengthened our division within CMA to be able to accommodate the project cargo, to find, I would say, the most secure way and the most efficient way to carry project cargo, and to work also on the long-term visibility. So in a nutshell, I would say in terms of investment, we are always investing to have new equipment for our vessels. On some trade, we got vessels with, I would say, stronger cranes. But also we do rely with a really strong cooperation with terminals everywhere in the world.
And speaking also of decarbonization, there's a lot of talk about the fuel of the future. Has 𝗂𝗎𝐶 already put its eggs in one basket, or is it, again, a diversification story?
I will say it's a diversification story. A few years ago, maybe you have seen we were the first one to have LNG propelled 24,000 TEUs. Those vessels are just beauty of technology. Today, we are seeing dual fuel vessels. We got also methanol vessels who are entering fleets. CMA is also supporting Energy Observer and is also behind some, I would say, Neoline, which will be a line sailing ship. And also, maybe in the future, we will look for alternative energy. We got a strong objective to be carbon neutral by 2050, and our chairman is clearly devoted to this task to make sure that we do it.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Thomas, for the brief introduction into the topic. Of course, we are going to discuss this a lot more in the coming period, but right now it serves as a perfect segue to our next guest, which is who is Wim Copmans, Key Account Manager, Industry and Energy at Ahlers Logistics. Wim, welcome.
Thank you, Adnan, and good morning, everybody. And thank you for welcoming me to this webinar. So looking forward to have a great discussion.
Wim, Ahlers has been quite active in helping clients decarbonize their supply chain, decarbonize their operations. So which industries are you most active in, and which industries do you see as the most active ones who are looking to decarbonize their operations?
Yeah, there are basically a few. Of course, the energy sector itself, but that's already going on for a longer time. And you see there that there is a lot of investment already for many years in wind and solar projects, and this is still continuing and going on. But recently we see more also of a trend of really investment in heavy industries, where these heavy industries are really looking to clean up their production methods and their installations. And these are industries like, for example, the steel sector or the cement sector, also the chemical sector, and so on. And so they really are looking to invest and clean up their production processes. And we see that this is really now in the recent years is really taking up speed, and it's moving forward. Several of those projects have really kickstarted and have gone ahead, and there are still a lot of other projects planned to go ahead in the near future. So yeah, definitely heavy industries, and there they are implementing different technologies. For example, hydrogen is one of them, where it is looked at, because hydrogen has the facility to really temporarily store energy, and if you can link that then with a renewable energy source like wind or solar, and then temporarily store the energy and link that to an industrial site, which requires basically permanent flow of constant baseload power. That is something that is interesting, and that we see really going forward. And there's a lot of really projects planned in that regard. So definitely heavy industries, but also of course our own sector. The logistics sector is also of course responsible for substantial amounts of CO2 emission in the world. Also there, like Thomas already mentioned, carriers are looking into optimizing their fleets, making it more energy efficient or use different fuels. Also in the land-based transportation, you see that also there technologies are being developed to use lower carbon fuels for trucks or even electric trucks. So that's, I think, in my view, the main sectors where that investments are being made and where that things are moving forward to decarbonize.
And as a project forwarder, what is the role of the project forwarder in this case?
Yes. So, of course, we, as a freight forwarder, we are asset light. So we don't have our own trucks, we don't operate our own vessels, but we see ourselves more as a facilitator for our customers or an advisor for our customers to really look in the market what are the best solutions to transport their cargo and to evaluate different scenarios of transporting their equipment. And this can be, for example, to move cargo which is first intended to move by road, to shift it to barge transportation or to rail, which is of course more CO2 friendly. That's a possibility. Or we look to combine different lots on a certain transport methods to improve load efficiency, for example. And besides that, what we also do is that we are using digital tools to really measure what is the CO2 emission of different transport methods or different transport scenarios. And we make this available to our customers so that they can make a more informed decision. So they can basically evaluate, and we also show that to them then, evaluate what are the cost of the different transport methods, what is the CO2 emission, what is the transit time, and based on that, they can make a more informed decision. So that this is what we see as our role in this, to really guide our customers towards making the right decisions, basically.
Yeah, Wim, as I mentioned before, I'm mostly focusing on the rail sector so far, and there is a decarbonization discussion taking place there, of course, like in the whole supply chain. And decarbonization is a buzzword, let's say, for a good purpose, I hope, currently. But there are a lot of discussion about the costs as well. Who will bear the costs, and whether they should be government-driven investments, whether they should be private investments. How does this discussion develop in the project cargo sector, and are companies willing to pay to decarbonize?
Yeah, that's of course a major challenge, of course. And we see, especially, I think we can really say Europe is the front runner in this decarbonization move, and it's in that regard substantially pushed by government to decarbonize. You have in Europe the European Green Deal, which then has a lot of different practices to support that. And yeah, there you see that indeed for these decarbonization projects, often there is government funding needed to go ahead and start such a project. And we see that this is indeed the case. So indeed, often these projects are government funded, but then still, of course, it requires still some investment from the company itself and from the producer. Of course, the end product then doesn't necessarily become cheaper. And of course, the supply chain today is global, it's not local. So our European companies, of course, also compete with global competitors, which might have a different view on decarbonization. So it's a complex challenge, and in that regard, the European Union has developed some mechanisms to try and protect, let's say, also the European market. Like recently, and this is something which is in the process of being implemented, which is the CBAM mechanism, the Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism, in which basically, if a European buyer buys a product outside of Europe, a product which is, for example, carbon intensive like steel, this buyer and also this producer has to demonstrate that this product was produced with an environmentally friendly practice. If not, there will be a carbon price levied on that product, and so that will increase actually the cost to import that product into Europe. And by doing this, the European Union intends to basically create a more level playing field or a more competitive landscape also for the European companies. But this is something which is in the process of being implemented. It's not yet there. The target is to have this in place by 2026. But we will still have to see if it really functions, because today, in today's world, there are so many things changing. It's decarbonization, where that's different governments around the world have different views on this. You have a lot of geopolitical events constantly happening, a lot of markets and supply chain disruptions happening. Also, for example, in the United States, with the Biden administration, there was the Inflation Reduction Act pushing towards more decarbonization as well. But now again, we have a changing administration in the US. So there are constantly a lot of evolving factors. And so that's a big challenge, and we will have to see if indeed which will be the impact. And keeping this all in mind, it doesn't really look like this will push the costs lower. On the contrary, it might push prices higher.
Because it's a complex process from what we understand, so it's normal for the prices to go up.
Yeah, and it also will require a bit of a shift within the supply chain. It's been known to adapt to all different scenarios and factors affecting it. As you mentioned, certain geopolitical issues that have been going on for longer than a year, or even longer. So how do you see the supply chain shifting and adapting to these new circumstances?
Yeah, it's like I said, it's a very complex task, especially for our customers and for the supply chain team of our customers, because we have a very rapidly evolving world, and so in that regard, I think it's just the message to our customers is to be very vigilant and to constantly follow what happens, because what is in place today can be completely different in the next year, because I mean, different governments around the world have a different view on the decarbonization. So it's a big challenge. There is no easy answer to that, I think. It's just a matter of being dynamic and creating a dynamic environment or supply chain with plan A, plan B, plan C options. Of course, we are there again as a freight forwarder to also help our customers to evaluate all these different parameters. Shipping cost, CO2 emission, what is the impact of this CBAM import tax, for example, and to help them really make the right decisions. So very complex, not an easy answer to that, I think.
Yeah, and as I understand, it's different regionally. The pace of development and implementation of different regulations is different from region to region, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct. Yeah.
Perfect, Wim. Thank you again to you as well and to all our guests for this information, for all the information, for everything that's been said today and that's been introduced to our viewers and listeners. But we have to move on now. It's the year 2024 is ending. We are looking forward into 2025, and I think we have already given the news to our visitors at Project Cargo Summit 2024 in Bilbao. Now we have more news to give to potential visitors of Project Cargo Summit 2025.
Because we also need a platform to discuss all those topics in a broader context with more people around.
Yeah,
guess,
definitely.
Right?
So, and we started preparations quite early. So that's why we have our colleague here, Mariona, who can tell us a bit more about the plans for Project Cargo Summit next year.
Hello, I appeared magically to the room. Surprise. And yes, I didn't want to miss this opportunity to welcome, of course, all the attendees of last year, but also all the potential professionals in the project cargo industry that want to be informed, that want to learn, and also want to see what the Basque region can apport to their business. So yes, I think it's the perfect timing to start preparing for 2025 with a mark on your calendars on September 2025 in Bilbao. And of course,
September 17 and 18, right?
Yes,
in
exactly.
Bilbao.
And last year was, I will take the opportunity and might say it was probably the most successful edition of the event, right? So
yes.
What is the outlook for next year?
Well, I would say more and better, of course, because we always like to reflect and improve what we did last year work, but of course we want to offer new topics, new site visits, more potential opportunities for companies. So if you are a company in the project cargo industry and you want to stand out amongst the others, please contact us and we'll be more than happy to welcome you as a partner, but not as a hosting partner, because that's only for the Port of Bilbao.
And maybe something that we should also mention is that the program is developing dynamically, meaning that new things come into light, so we need to address them. So if you feel that there is a certain topic that needs to be addressed, a burning point, something critical for your business, please contact us, contact Adnan or Mariona, and let us know if there are any relevant issues that we could help you tackle during the Project Cargo Summit in Bilbao next September.
Yeah, definitely. And just to remind, this webinar was basically an insight or an introduction into the topics that we are going to discuss in 2025. the role of Port of Bilbao as the hosting partner, the capacity of container carriers. We will have more guests on stage with the representatives of CMA CGM to discuss this topic, and of course, decarbonization. It's, as you said, it's a buzzword, but it's more than a buzzword, I would say.
It's our reality currently, and we cannot really move away from it.
Yeah, definitely.
It's a necessary evil, let's say, even though I wouldn't deem it as an evil. I would say that it's necessary for a supply chain to decarbonize in order to keep moving forward and stay competitive in this global context. So.
Yeah. So,
before closing, I think we should also mention this little surprise, because I think after this webinar, people is crazy to register for 2025. So please, if you use this QR code, we open the pre-registration of the Project Cargo Summit 2025 at a very special price, meaning that you'll have this for only 1 week, and then we will close again until we open the official registrations.
And it's just for you, the people who register and attend this webinar. So it's our special gift to you.
Yeah.
And talking about people attending the webinar, I failed to mention before, but our audience today was very international, actually.
Yep.
We had people attending, watching from Stockholm, from Koper, from Kuala Lumpur, from Ghana. So thank you, everyone, for being here today. And we hope that we will probably see you next September in Bilbao as well.
Yeah.
And we could bring you along as well. Why not?
Of course. Then I would also deal with my FOMO next year. I will not have to worry about watching the after movie. I will be present.
Exactly. So thank you, everybody watching. Thank you, guys in the studio. And we'll see you next time.